We shall now be in a position to understand the theory of Maya. In all the regions of the world, the one question they propose to discuss is this: why is there disharmony in the universe? Why is there this evil in the universe? We do not find this question in the very inception of primitive religious ideas, because the world did not appear incongruous to the primitive man. Circumstances were not inharmonious for him. There was no dash of opinions. To him there was no antagonism of good and evil. There was merely a feeling in his own heart of something which said yeah, and something which said nay. The primitive man was a man of impulse. He did what occurred to him, and tried to bring out through his muscles whatever thought came into his mind, and he never stopped to judge, and seldom tried to check his impulses. So with the gods. They were also creatures of impulse. Indra comes and shatters the forces of the demons. Jehovah is pleased with one person and displeased with another, for what reason no one knows or asks. The habit of inquiry had not then arisen, and whatever he did was regarded as right. There was no idea of good or evil. The Devas did many wicked things in our sense of the word, and again and again Indra and other gods committed very wicked deeds. But to the worshippers of Indra, the ideas of wickedness and evil did not occur, so they did not question them. With the advance of ethical ideas came the fight. There arose a certain sense in man, called in different languages and nations by different names. Call it the voice of God, or the result of past education, or whatever you like, or whatever else you like. But the effect was this, that it had a checking power upon the natural impulses of man. There is one impulse in our minds which says, do. Behind it rises another voice which says, do not, do not. There is one set of ideas in our mind which is always struggling to get outside through the channels of the senses, and behind that, although it may be thin and weak, there is an infinitely small voice which says, do not go outside. The two beautiful Sanskrit words for these phenomena are pravritti and nivritti, circling forward and circling inward. It is the circling forward which usually governs our actions. Religion begins with this circling inward. Religion begins with this do not. Spirituality begins with this do not. When the do not is not there, religion has not begun. And this do not came, causing men's ideas to grow, despite the fighting gods which they had worshipped. A little love awoke in the hearts of mankind. It was very small indeed, and even now it is not much greater. It was at first confined to a tribe, embracing perhaps members of the same tribe. These gods loved their tribes, and each god was a tribal god, the protector of that tribe. And sometimes the members of a tribe would think of themselves as the descendants of their god, just as the clans in different nations think that they are the common descendants of the man who was the founder of the clan. There were in ancient times, and are even now, some people who claim to be descendants not only of these tribal gods, but also of the sun and the moon. You read in the ancient Sanskrit books of the great heroic emperors of the solar and the lunar dynasties. They were first worshippers of the sun and the moon, and gradually came to think of themselves as descendants of the god of the sun and the moon, and so forth. So when these tribal ideas began to grow, there came a little love, some slight idea of duty towards each other, a little social organization. Then, naturally, the idea came. How can we live together without bearing and forbearing? How can one man live with another without having some time or other to check his impulses, to restrain himself, to forbear from doing things which his mind would prompt him to do? It is impossible. Thus comes the idea of restraint. The whole social fabric is based upon that idea of restraint. And we all know that the man or woman who has not learned the great lesson of bearing and forbearing leads to a most miserable life. Now, when these ideas of religion came, a glimpse of something higher, more ethical, dawned upon the intellect of mankind. The old gods were found to be incongruous. These boisterous, fighting, drinking, beef-eating gods of the ancients, whose delight was in the smell of burning flesh and libations of strong liquor. Sometimes Indra drank so much that he fell upon the ground and talked unintelligibly. These gods could no longer be tolerated. The notion had arisen of inquiring into motives, and the gods had to come in for their share of inquiry. Reason for such and such actions was demanded, and the reason was wanting. Therefore, man gave up these gods, or rather, they developed higher ideas concerning them. They took a survey, as it were, of all the actions and qualities of the gods, and discarded those which they could not harmonize, and kept those which they could understand, and combined them, labeling them with one name. Deva, the god of gods. The god to be worshipped was no more a simple symbol of power. Something more was required than that. He was an ethical god. He loved mankind and did good to mankind. But the idea of God still remained. They increased his ethical significance and increased also his power. He became the most ethical being in the universe, as well as almost almighty. But all this patchwork would not do, as the explanation assumed greater proportions. The difficulty which is sought to solve did the same. If the qualities of the god increased in arithmetical progression, the difficulty and doubt increased in geometrical progression. The difficulty of Jehovah was very little beside the difficulty of the God of the universe, and this question remains to the present day. Why, under the reign of an almighty and all-loving God of the universe, should diabolical things be allowed to remain? Why so much misery? Why so much more misery than happiness, and so much more wickedness than good? We may shut our eyes to all these things, but the fact still remains that this world is a hideous world. At best, it is the hell of Tantalus. Here we are with strong impulses and stronger cravings for sense enjoyments, but cannot satisfy them. There rises a wave which impels us forward in spite of our own will, and as soon as we move one step comes a blow. We are all doomed to live here like Tantalus. Ideals come into our head far beyond the limit of our sense ideals, but when we seek to express them, we cannot do so. On the other hand, we are crushed by the surging mass around us. Yet if I give up all ideality and merely struggle through the world, my existence is that of a brute, and I degenerate and degrade myself. Neither way is happiness. Unhappiness is the fate of those who are content to live in this world, born as they are. 1,000 times greater misery is the fate of those who dare to stand forth for truth and for higher things. 1,000 times greater misery is the fate of those who dare to stand forth for truth and for higher things, and who dare to ask for something higher than mere brute existence here. These are facts, but there is no explanation. There cannot be any explanation. But the Vedanta shows the way out. You must bear in mind that I have to tell you facts that will frighten you sometimes. But if you remember what I say, think of it and digest it, it will be yours. It will raise you higher and make you capable of understanding and living in truth. Now it is a statement of fact that this world is a Tantalus's hell, that we do not know anything about this universe. Yet at the same time, we cannot say that we do not know. I cannot say that this chain exists when I think that I do not know it. It may be an entire delusion of my brain. I may be dreaming all the time. I am dreaming that I am talking to you and that you are listening to me. No one can prove that it is not a dream. My brain itself may be a dream, and as to that, no one has ever seen his own brain. We all take it for granted. So it is with everything. My own body I take for granted. At the same time, I cannot say I do not know. This standing between knowledge and ignorance, this mystic twilight, the mingling of truth and falsehood, and where they meet, no one knows. We are walking in the midst of a dream, half sleeping, half waking, passing all our lives in a haze. This is the fate of every one of us. This is the fate of all sense knowledge. This is the fate of all philosophy, of all boasted science, of all boasted human knowledge. This is the universe. What you call matter or spirit or mind or anything else you may like to call them, the fact remains the same. We cannot say that they are. We cannot say that they are not. We cannot say they are one. We cannot say they are many. This eternal play of light and darkness, indiscriminate, indistinguishable, inseparable, is always there. A fact, yet at the same time not a fact. Awake and at the same time asleep. This is a statement of facts, and this is what is called Maya. We are born in this Maya. We live in it. We think in it. We dream in it. We are philosophers in it. We are spiritual men in it. Nay, we are devils in this Maya, and we are gods in this Maya. Stretch your ideas as far as you can. Make them higher and higher. Call them infinite or by any other name you please. Even these ideas are within this Maya. It cannot be otherwise. And the whole of human knowledge is a generalization of this Maya, trying to know it as it appears to be. This is the whole work of Namarupa, name and form. Everything that has form, everything that calls up an idea in your mind is within Maya, for everything that is bound by the laws of time, space, and causation is within Maya.